If you're confused about parallel structure and thesis statements, in this video I'll explain what parallel structure is, why the top students use it, and obviously why you should too, and give you many options for how you can actually use parallel structure to improve your thesis statements. As a high school English teacher for 15 years, I've seen students struggle with parallel structure and, to make matters worse, lose easy marks and make their writing harder than it needs to be. My guarantee is that by the end of this 6-minute video, you'll have mastered parallel structure so that you impress any English teacher that you come across. Parallel structure in thesis statements simply means that you use the same words or phrases, aka structure, in the subtopics of your thesis statement. Simple enough, but why actually use it? For these 3 reasons. First, a strong thesis statement with parallel structure subtly tells the teacher that you are in fact a strong writer. Teachers can understand right away if you have good writing skills. So you could think of parallel structure as putting on a nice suit before a job interview. It shows you got class and know what you're talking about. Secondly, it actually prevents writer's block. Our brain is naturally attached to patterns. Parallel structure in your thesis statement makes your arguments and ideas easier to remember. If you've ever struggled to find a direction in your writing or suffered from severe writer's block, it's probably because your thesis isn't well organized. So organizing with parallel structure is going to help prevent writer's block. Now, the third reason why parallel structure is beneficial is it actually saves time. If each part of your thesis is well organized and follows the same structure, then you're going to be able to stay on topic, organize the ideas within your writing much easier, and keep all of your ideas connected. Having good parallel structure at the beginning of writing, aka when you start your thesis, is going to save you hours when it comes to actually putting your ideas together. This all sounds simple enough, so this brings us to our real problem. Why is parallel structure so hard to understand? The reason is the teachers usually only give 1 or 2 examples for what parallel structure actually is. They may use something like, I like to ride my bike to go swimming and run around the block. And just looking at that, that's only one way you can use parallel structure. You need to have options. So right now, I'm gonna give you 10 options for how you can use parallel structure, so you'll know how you can use parallel structure rather than just trying to fit it into the 1 or 2 examples the teacher gives. So let's jump in with the examples I've got using Harry Potter styled thesis statements. The first 4 ways you can use parallel structure is actually with the verbs. And the first way is probably the most common. It's the to verbs or the infinitives. Looking at the example on screen, you can see that the thesis is using to explore, to analyze, and to propose. The to are all infinitives and give those verbs parallel structure. The second example is all about the ing verbs, a very common way to use parallel structure in your writing. So the words mastering, developing, and building are all the 3 subtopics. They start with the ing verb, so it's an easy way to build that structure into the thesis statement. Now the third verb example, ed verbs, aka past tense. Looking at the thesis on screen, you can see that this thesis statement uses the words identified, analyzed, and proposed as the 3 subtopics, giving the thesis statement, again, parallel structure. Our final example of verbs are what's called imperatives, when it sounds like you're giving commands. So you can see in this thesis statement, we have the verb phrases examine his childhood trauma, analyze his magical education, and predict his ultimate destiny. So the 3 verbs, examine, analyze, and predict, are all imperatives, giving commands, and giving this thesis statement good parallel structure. Moving on to our 5th example now, we're actually going to jump into adverbs. So if you look on screen, you may notice immediately the ly adverbs, duel bravely, fight strategically, and lead confidently. All those nice ly endings to the adverbs give our 5th example good parallel structure. So number 6 actually deals with adjectives, how we describe nouns. So looking at the example on screen, we can see magically gifted, incredibly brave, and deeply loyal. So adjectives can be an easy way to use both parallel structure and add depth to your subtopics. Example number 7 looks at a really common part of speech, nouns, which we can see on the screen here. We've got magical education, creature rights, and muggle protection. Using nouns and keeping the word limit approximately the same is definitely going to give you another option for parallel structure. Number 8 and 9 are all about prepositions, how you describe the nouns or the verbs you're writing about. So in this first example on the screen, we can see the three aspects of parallel structure in the Ministry of Magic, in the Hogwarts corridors, and in Wizarding households. Just by using that simple preposition in gives you parallel structure. In the next example, we're kind of combining the last two, having a noun and a prepositional phrase, where we can see on the screen the role of friendship in defeating Voldemort, the impact of sacrifice on magical protection, and lastly, the importance of choice in determining destiny. And the last one, taking a look at a dependent clause. In the example on screen, we've got the repetition of the word how in how the Elder Wand corrupts its owners, how it influences magical power, and how it shapes wizarding history. If you found value in this video, please consider giving the channel a subscribe down below. It would be the highlight of my teaching career. Now back to the video. The last question you're probably left with is, well, how do I put it all together? And there really isn't a way to put parallel structure together. The goal is to have as many options as possible so that you can choose the one that best fits you. The analogy I would give here is the teacher giving only 2 or 3 examples is like playing with maybe 5 or 10 pieces of Lego or Duplo. You really can't build much. But now that you have 10 examples, you've got dozens of pieces of Duplo, and you can probably make something really, really incredible. Because imagine all you had was the first example from verbs, to. If your only parallel structure is to use infinitives, it will be really hard to write a thesis. But now that you have 9 other options, I guarantee your thesis writing is going to go by like that, and you're going to be more organized. If you had trouble with parallel structure, you may want a little bit of a refresher on other thesis statements that you can write as well. If that's the case, click on the link over here. It'll send you to a playlist with everything I know about thesis statements. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.